Skeletal Devil here, and welcome back to another episode of Cursage Gaming. Now, for today's episode, I will be covering a story called Metroid Deception. Now, some of you might have noticed that the some ordinary gamer, also known as Munahar Anubis, also did a video on this. My response? Man, I don't get one flying for. So the story starts out with the player telling the readers that his or her favorite video game franchise is the Metroid series. Upon hearing that the new Metroid game, Metroid Prime, would be coming out soon, he or she shat his or her own pants. On the Friday that the game came out, the player rushed home due to serving detention for defacing his or her or they or them or it or the toaster's desk. The player ran exactly 6 blocks to the nearest game store. The gaming store was not EB Games, but in fact, Mitch's Game Warehouse. The player tells us that all the kids love Mitch and often treated him as if he was their daddy. The player nearly sends Mitch into cardiac arrest when he or she rushed through Mitch's door. Mitch screamed, "Tommy, what the hell you doing? You trying to tackle my door?" Oh my god. Oh fuck. The player apologized and asked if there were any copies of Metroid Prime left. Mitch said no, and that the next supply would be coming next week. Upon hearing this, the player was absolutely devastated, and started to cry like Jesse did when Todd kills Andrea in episode 15 of the 5th season of the critically acclaimed series Breaking Bad, directed by Vince Gilligan. Spoiler alert, by the way. It's not like you had 14 fucking years to watch the show. Anyways, Mitch started to look around and found one last copy, which came with the Samus figurine. Mitch didn't even know he had this figurine. The player was about 37 cents short, but Mitch didn't care and just gave him or her the game, along with the Samus figurine for free. As the player was running home, he or she lifted up the visor on the Samus figurine to reveal Samus's coochie, eyes. Sorry guys and gals. Gals and guys. Samus's eyes seemed to show fear, but the player dismissed it. Once the player got home, the player shut his or her door, so no one could interrupt their quality time with Samus. The player noticed on the bottom of the figurine a GameCube controller plug-in. The player plugged the figurine into the GameCube without knowing what it actually does. The player took out the game case from the bag and noticed that the word Prime had been scribbled out with the word Deception. The player shrugged it off and popped the game into his or her GameCube. Once the title screen showed up, an ear-piercing noise started playing. The player tried shutting off the GameCube but couldn't, so he or she just unplugged it. The player thought that was quite odd and booted the console back up. Upon rebooting, the player noticed that the GameCube didn't start with the normal GameCube intro, but instead just started with the game menu. Files 2 and 1 were New Game, but the third and last one was called New Horror. Being the absolute brain-dead, dumbass, zobritardian troglodyte that the player was, he or she selected New Horror. The game was normal except for the fact that Samus was missing her arm cannon. The player scanned the locks as usual to enter the space pirate base. Upon entering the base, the player was surrounded by exactly 5 Metroids. The Nintendo Prime for the Nintendo GameCubes. Oh fuck. The Metroid Prime for the Nintendo GameCubes latched onto Samus and started mollywhopping her. Samus started to moan hyper-realistically. Oh wait. Sorry guys and gals, I meant scream. Samus started to scream hyper-realistically. According to the player, the screams were so realistic that it actually sounded like the voice actor was being eviscerated in real life. The Metroids ripped Samus's head clean off, with the vertebrae sticking out of the neck. Fatality. The game over screen was Hamus. Yes, Hamus. The game over screen was Samus's heart stopping. Now, time out. I don't actually know if the author's getting the Metroid Prime 2 game over screen mixed up. You know what? Just forget it, okay? Just forget it. This sort of fucking blows. Blows harder than fucking Frost last Triceratops turds. The player reluctantly restarted and noticed that both new game options were gone, leaving just new horror. The player gathered up all the courage he or she had left and selected it. The intro started again, but this time Samus had her arm cannon. Relieved to see this, the player moved on. Upon entering the space pirate base, the Metroids were gone. In their place were two mutilated space pirate corpses. The player scanned their bodies, which revealed very gruesome logs that I won't get into because I don't feel like reading them. According to the player, the pirates didn't even try to attack Samus. They just laid there, writhing in pain. Sorry guys and gals. Upon entering the next room, there were more space pirates on the other side of the glass wall. They too were screaming and injured. After this, a text box showed up on the bottom of the screen saying, "Don't worry, you soon will feel their pain." The player found the threatening message adorable and moved on. The player scanned the door, which caused a cutscene to play. After Samus scanned the door, another door appeared under her and opened up. Samus fell into a vat of Phazon and melted. After this horrifying encounter, the Samus figurine fell off the TV. The player lifted the visor and noticed that there was nothing behind it. The figurine then spontaneously combusted into multiple pieces. Similarly to how a Lego character would die in a Lego game. The player then heard Samus screaming hyper-realistically as the game over screen played. The player then heard Samus crying, which prompted him or her to Super Smash Bros. Brawl the game disc. After the player was done Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U and Nintendo 3DS-ing the game disc, he or she then melted the figurine in his or her oven. The player then concludes the story saying that he or she will never play another Metroid game ever again. Fuck you, player. So what do I have to say about this creepypasta? I don't think it's real. The reason being is that I went on Zillow.com and searched up Mitch's Game Warehouse. What I found was a strange image of Zobriar's house. Now, one thing I thought was highly unrealistic was that the Samus blow-up doll suddenly combusting. The only way that doll could have exploded was if Walter White snuck up on the player and put the bomb he used to kill Gus Fring inside of the doll while the player was playing. And I hardly doubt that could have happened since Walter White only exists on AMC and not Nintendo. However, I was slightly disappointed that the doll didn't kill the player in the end. Like this would have been a 308, 871, a 4 out of 10 if that happened. Other than the slightly unbelievable realism and disappointing finale, this was still a really good creepypasta. The descriptions of Samus getting absolutely manhandled like your average white girl in X-Hamsters was really unnerving and almost sent me to the Mob of the Dead afterlife. So what would you guys and gals rate this? Comment down below. Links to whatever the usual shit is in the description below. This has been another episode of Cursage Gaming. And if you liked what you saw, make sure to like, comment, and subscrizzle. This is me, Skeledov, and I'm out!